Time to get you another big voice here on Startup Central. She's in charge of the startup ecosystem for Microsoft India. Lathika Pai now joining us here. Hi Lathika, welcome to Startup Central. You live in Bengaluru. You've come for this big event organized by TiE Delhi NCR, where the Delhi chapter is boasting about being the largest ecosystem for startups in the country, with a market share of more than 50% when it comes to market value, 10 unicorns, more than 7,000 startups. So Lathika, on a lighter note, do you think Microsoft is going to relocate you from Bengaluru to the National Capital Region?
Absolutely not. I think the beauty is, in this tethered world, it doesn't matter where I'm located. The fact of the matter is that it's a wonderful initiative that TiE has taken, Microsoft for Startups. We have actually sponsored this event because we truly need to figure out a way on how to capitalize on what the NCR region has already done to date.
So having said that, Lathika Pai, I want to now ask you, on behalf of all the startups, the founders and our viewers, what is Microsoft's game plan when it comes to India's startup ecosystem?
So Microsoft has always been in India and extremely active in terms of the startup ecosystem. What we are here to do today right now is to identify those startups that we can engage with and help them scale. So today, we have 20,000 plus startups, and many of them are struggling to get to the next level. It's not a question of investor money that is required. It really is a question of how do we engage with the startups, help them understand what their next version of technology should be to scale. And most importantly, what we bring to the table is our co-sell opportunity, which is to take our startups to our corporate clients, not just here in India, but globally. So that is really the most powerful part of what we do today as Microsoft for Startups. A, give them technology, B, market access, and C, deep mentorship.
But do you give them equity? Do you give money? Because, we, for example, have seen Google do that. Is that something that Microsoft also does? So, Facebook has started attempting to do that. Remember the Meesho investment?
Sure. So we do have a venture arm called M12, which does invest in startups. We've done 2 large investments in the past couple of months, but the organization that I'm a part of actually gives more than what money can get you, which is real business, right? Engaging with the startups. And today that is our deal flow, frankly, comes in from the top venture capitalists here in India. They have invested in companies. These companies are struggling to scale. That's when they engage with Microsoft. So it is at zero equity to the founders who are selected. We get about 100 applications, and out of the 100 we pick about 8 to 10 to engage with. They're across different verticals: fintech, health tech, agri-tech, and so it's a very, very interesting basket of startups that we are working with in helping them scale.
So then my next question, which would has been preempted by one of your answers, when you look to mentor, not give money, but mentor, do you look for only those startups which you think will be relevant to the Microsoft ecosystem? For example, take them to your corporate clients, etc.
So the good news is that as Microsoft, we're in 200 countries, we have 40,000 plus customers / clients, and as a result, almost any kind of startup that we engage with, as long as they're technology based, their relevance becomes very, very important, right? So it's not a question of just looking at our Microsoft client list. But the fact of the matter is that if the startup has a technology solution that is relevant to a particular vertical or a horizontal, we then see how promising that startup is in terms of both their technology and the founders, and then help them in terms of coming into the program.
So do you have a simple, and I'm going to be dumbing it down, so I apologize for that. But this again, I'm asking on behalf of everyone tuning in. Do you have a simple checklist for associating with startups, for mentoring startups, for being associated with startups? The do's and don'ts.
Absolutely. The simple checklist is that to get into our scale-up program, we look to seed to Series A funded startups, revenue generating, and we look at what their areas of interest are, are they looking to scale their business? Are they looking for help in technology? And then engage with them. There are certain startups that we've engaged with which had no revenue, but we found that their technology that they're working on is extremely exciting. One of our startups that we recently engaged with is Bionic Yantra, which has created India's first exoskeleton, and they've just received a patent for what they're trying to do, and we're looking and helping them on their next version of the exoskeleton and taking them global. So similar to Bionic Yantra, we have other companies, in the smart cities space like Gaia. We have Edge Networks that's focused on AI-based skill, resume and workforce management. So we do have a variety that we work with, and I think it really is a matter of looking at the startup and how we can support them, and how the founders are really looking to engage with Microsoft to leverage what we have and what we bring to the table.
So do you also take them to Redmond? Do you take them global? Do you take them, to all the countries that you're in so they get a global exposure as well?
Absolutely. I think Redmond, more than Redmond, we help our startups go global. One of our startups, Cripsy, which is in the blockchain side of the house, we've taken them to Hanover MSA, to Germany, where they worked with our team there, and were exposed to clients in Germany. We've taken them to the US to our clients. So Machine Sense, which is another startup that's focused on creating IoT sensors for bridges. We're working with them in terms of, today they are in Kolkata monitoring bridges before they collapse, and helping them, taking them global. So I think the beauty is with Microsoft, I've had startups who've called me and said, we're trying to close a deal in Colombia. Could you please help us with a connect there? And literally 24 hours later, they've been connected to the folks in Microsoft Colombia. So again, Nayanthara, what is really, really cool about what we have to offer in our program is our co-sell motion. Having been an entrepreneur myself, I've just joined Microsoft a year ago. I think this is the most powerful thing that we can do in terms of helping startups.
Obviously someone who is an entrepreneur turned mentor turned investor is always far more compassionate, far more sympathetic also to the lonely journey that an entrepreneur can have. So Lathika, do you want to share with us what made you switch sides?
That's a great question, Nayanthara. I never thought that I would get back into a corporate gig after 17 years of being an entrepreneur. I think what really excited me was the ability to sit on the other side and help founders, help them in terms of identifying with, through the Microsoft network, in terms of engaging our platform to take them to the next level. I think that really was what was exciting in terms of me making the switch. I must admit, it's been 1 year. A lot of people kind of were surprised whether I would last the year, but it's just flown by. I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I have here at Microsoft, because every day the ability to connect founders in terms of giving them business and in terms of shortening their cycle in terms of meeting investors, just being there, like you said, it's a very lonely journey, has been very exciting. Microsoft is a phenomenal company in terms of also looking at working with social impact startups. We are looking at taking our technology and helping social impact startups in terms of leveraging it to increase what they're doing. So in many ways, I think the kind of support that I've got from Microsoft, not just here in India, I actually report into the global organization, and I have the Middle East and South Asian countries too. I think it's just been a phenomenal year that I have been in terms of how I can support founders everywhere.
So also give us, a perspective of how important this entire program is for Microsoft in Redmond, for the corporate office, because we take pride in saying that India must be the Silicon Valley of the East. One day we all have aspirations. If I talk about the Bay Area, let's talk about India and all of that. How important is it? And, given the fact that Satya Nadella has an Indian origin, does he, for example, take a special interest? Give us some idea.
So I think definitely let me start with the leadership here in India. So Anant Maheshwari, with whom I engage very, very closely with. He is extremely bullish about startups. He has actually ensured that the Indian entity, the Indian subsidiary, invests in startups and creating an additional team for startups. So that is really, really very, very supportive in terms of helping the ecosystem. I think whether for Satya, whether it's India, whether it's rest of the world, the startup ecosystem is extremely relevant. So whether it's Satya, many of his direct reports, we keep having many of them come into India. Every one of them ensures that they have an engagement with startups. We have a round table. So it is a priority for Microsoft in terms of engaging with startups.
And because you report into so many offices, you engage, like you said, with the rest of South Asia, Middle East, and all of that. How big is the startup ecosystem when we talk about the rest of the world? Let's leave out the Bay Area. When you look at the other countries, how big is it? Give us some idea.
So it's been fascinating. I just mentioned today at the Thai conference that the countries I go to are all the developing and emerging markets. To put it in perspective, Egypt which is one of the largest ecosystems in Africa. They had $33 million of investment into their ecosystem last year in 2018, vis-a-vis India, which had $3.3 billion of investment into our ecosystem. So almost all the markets are emerging. It's where India was 15 years ago. And what's fascinating is none of them are really interested in understanding and learning more about the US or China or Israel. They believe that's not really relevant to them as much as India is. So they're very interested in the Indian story in terms of how India is where it is today. We have 26 unicorns. And so every government I go and speak to, whether it's Morocco, Egypt, Qatar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, anywhere I've been to, I think the question is how do we leverage and understand what India is doing as an ecosystem, and how can we take it to the next level and get support from India. So we are far ahead, and I think it's really a matter of pride for me personally when I have most investors and governments asking to learn from our ecosystem.
Lathika, before I let you go, there's a huge opportunity in India as well because, like you said, we are at about 20 unicorns at the moment, 22 unicorns, and it is projected in a few years we'll have 100 unicorns. You're talking about over $80 billion here. It's bigger, perhaps the opportunities here are far greater, more exciting than the new economy. Having said that, I also wanted to get a perspective from you on the Indian entrepreneur, the Indian founder. Anything interesting that you found about Indian entrepreneurs versus the rest of the world?
So I think the beauty about the Indian entrepreneur today is that they have a lot of peer group that they can emulate, follow. I think, once upon a time when I finished my engineering, the entire plane was filled with the graduating classes from engineering schools, from the top tier 1 to tier 2. The US was the mecca where people wanted to reach. Today you see, people staying back because they have seen their seniors, their alum doing extremely well. So I think the Indian entrepreneur has got a lot of support coming in from the networks that they have built, that has been built here over the past 15 years. And I think there is that perseverance that they have within them to succeed, and the support that they're getting in from the network. So I think that's what's really exciting. Like you mentioned, we're looking at 100 unicorns. the term unicorn is really more aspirational. It's not a question of just valuation, but the fact that we want to really create world-class companies that are worth $1 billion and more is something that is a very exciting time for all of us here in India.
With that, Lathika, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out and for being so candid with your views on the Indian ecosystem right here on Startup Central.
Great. Thanks, Nayantara.